1967. America was burning. The Vietnam War raged on, cities erupted in racial violence, and the country seemed to be tearing itself apart. In this chaos, one phone call would change everything. A jazz producer named Bob Thiele called songwriter George David Weiss with an impossible mission: write a song that could heal a nation. What they created wasn't just a melody, it was a prayer, a plea, and a promise that would become one of the most beloved songs in history. This is the untold story of What a Wonderful World. To understand how these legendary lyrics came to exist, we need to travel back to one of America's darkest years. 1967 wasn't just another year, it was a year of unprecedented social upheaval. The Vietnam War was escalating, with over 500,000 American troops deployed. Cities across America were exploding in racial violence. The song was written with in mind the tumultuous backdrop of the Vietnam War and the ongoing struggle for civil rights, which amplified the song's power. This wasn't just background noise. This was the reality that was breaking America's spirit. But in the midst of this darkness, there was Louis Armstrong, Satchmo himself. At 66 years old, Armstrong had spent decades breaking racial barriers in music, bringing joy to audiences of all colors, and proving that art could transcend the ugliest divisions in society. Bob Thiele realized the nation needed a healing message delivered as only Armstrong could deliver it, and tapped songwriter George David Weiss to craft the song. This wasn't just another recording session. This was a mission to save America's soul. Bob Thiele, working under the pseudonym George Douglas, teamed up with George David Weiss, a Songwriter Hall of Fame inductee, to create something that had never been attempted before. A song that could make people see beauty in a world that seemed determined to destroy itself. But this wasn't going to be easy. How do you write lyrics about a wonderful world when cities are burning? How do you sing about green trees and blue skies when television screens are filled with images of war and violence? Thiele stated, "We wanted this immortal musician and performer to say, as only he could, the world really is great, full of the love." The challenge was enormous. They needed to acknowledge the pain while finding the hope. George David Weiss wrote the song specifically for Louis Armstrong in the hope that it would bring people of all races together. This wasn't just songwriting. This was social engineering through music. They were trying to use lyrics to heal racial divisions and restore faith in humanity. The writing process was deeply intentional. Every word had to serve the larger purpose. The lyrics couldn't be naive or unrealistic. They had to acknowledge that people were struggling while offering them a different way to see their world. What makes the lyrics to What a Wonderful World so powerful isn't what they ignore, it's what they choose to celebrate. Weiss and Thiele crafted words that forced listeners to notice the small, everyday miracles they had forgotten to see. The genius of the lyrics lies in their radical simplicity. Instead of preaching about social change or political solutions, they invited people to pause and notice the colors of nature, the innocence of children, the basic human connections that transcend race and politics. Armstrong himself said the song reminded him of his neighborhood in Corona, New York. Lucille and I, ever, connecting the universal message to his personal experience of integrated community life. But perhaps the most brilliant aspect of the lyrics was how they reframed perspective without denying reality. The writers weren't saying the world wasn't broken. They were saying that even in brokenness, wonder still existed for those willing to see it. The song was recorded on August 16, 1967, but the impact of those carefully crafted words wouldn't be fully understood for decades. While it topped the pop chart in the United Kingdom, it performed poorly in the United States because Larry Newton, the president of ABC Records, disliked the song and refused to promote it. What transformed these lyrics from mere words on paper into something transcendent was Louis Armstrong's voice. His gravelly, tender delivery carried the weight of a lifetime of overcoming racial barriers and spreading joy through music. Armstrong's unmistakably gravelly, tender voice made the song transcend its original release, becoming an anthem of optimism for generations across the world. He wasn't just singing the words, he was living them, believing them, and inviting others to believe them too. The recording session itself became emotional. Here was a man who had faced decades of racism, who had been criticized by some in the civil rights movement for not being political enough, singing about hope in the midst of America's greatest social crisis. Armstrong's interpretation brought something to the lyrics that even the writers had not fully anticipated: the authority of lived experience. When he sang about a wonderful world, it carried the weight of someone who had spent his life making that world a little more wonderful through his art. For nearly 20 years, "What a Wonderful World" remained largely forgotten in America. But in 1987, something magical happened. The song was featured in the film Good Morning Vietnam, creating one of cinema's most powerful juxtapositions, these gentle lyrics playing against the backdrop of war footage. After being heard in the film Good Morning Vietnam, it was reissued as a single in 1988 and rose to number 32 on the Billboard Hot 100. Suddenly, America was ready to hear the message that Armstrong had delivered 20 years earlier. The song's resurrection proved the timeless power of its lyrics. Armstrong's recording was inducted to the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999, cementing its place as one of the most important songs in American music history. The lyrics that had been written to heal 1967 America found new relevance in every generation. The song became a global anthem covered by artists worldwide, proving that the message of finding wonder in a troubled world transcends time, culture, and circumstance. What a Wonderful World became more than just a song. It is a gentle reminder of hope and beauty in the face of chaos, conflict, and cynicism. The lyrics that Weiss and Thiele crafted in response to America's crisis became a gift to the world. The song proved that sometimes the most radical act is simply choosing to see beauty. In a world obsessed with what's broken, the lyrics of What a Wonderful World offer a different revolution, the revolution of gratitude, wonder, and hope. The song carries the emotional weight of its time, while also offering a timeless and universal message that continues to resonate deeply with listeners more than half a century later. Louis Armstrong took lyrics written for a broken 1967 America and turned them into a timeless reminder that wonder exists everywhere, if we just choose to see it. In doing so, he gave the world not just a song, but a way of seeing that continues to heal hearts and lift spirits decades later. What moment in your life has made you feel like you're living in a wonderful world? How do you think music can help us see beauty in difficult times? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories behind the songs that remind us of our shared humanity.